reactions trail tragic tanker explosion in Niger State, which claimed more than 80 lives.
Nigeria and Egypt strategize to enhance economic potentials.
Nigeria and Egypt develop strategies for mutual business opportunities.
And good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall discuss the new tax reform bills.
On the 3rd of October last year, 4 tax bills were introduced to the National Assembly. They include the Nigeria Tax Bill, Nigeria Tax Administration Bills, Nigeria Revenue Service and Joint Revenue Board Nigeria Establishment Bills 2024.
And these bills seek to simplify tax processes, grant tax breaks to small businesses while also easing filing processes.
Now, the Senate passed the bills for second reading 1 week after they were presented by President Tinubu. A day later, governors from the northern parts of the country opposed the change in VAT distribution part of the bill, which would shift to a derivation-based model.
Now, the governors argued that the reform would not benefit the North and other states. Later on, the 2nd of December, debates on the bills were suspended indefinitely by the House of Representatives.
The bills generated several debates across the country until just last week, when the Nigeria Governors Forum had an engagement with the Presidential Tax Reform Committee on the tax reform bills. The forum expressed strong support for the comprehensive reform of Nigeria's archaic tax laws.
The forum also endorsed a revised value-added tax sharing formula to ensure equitable distribution of resources. The agreed formula are namely 0.50% based on equality, 0.30% based on derivation, and 0.20% based on population.
They also agreed that there should be no increase in the VAT rate or reduction in corporate income tax, that's CIT, at this time to maintain economic stability. But however, advocated the continued exemption of essential goods and agricultural produce from VAT.
Now, the meeting recommended that there should be no terminal clause for TETFund, Naseni and NIDA in the sharing of development levies and the bills. The governors also support the continuation of the legislative process at the National Assembly that will culminate in the eventual passage of the tax reform bills.
The big question many are asking is if this development will bring an end to the controversy on issues relating to these new tax reform bills in Nigeria. Now, these issues inform our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today. Welcome to the program. I'm Henry John.
And I'm Juma Yusuf. Thanks so much for joining us. This is the first episode for the week, and our newspaper reviewer Chukudi Okolu Ubaja will be joining us shortly, but that will be after we take the morning highlights of the news. Stella Inemeti is standing by. Hello, Stella. Good morning.
Hello, Juma and Yenri. Good morning. Here is the morning news. The federal government has ordered the immediate relocation of the victims of petrol tanker explosion from the Suleja General Hospital to other tertiary medical institutions where they can receive better care. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, who led the federal government delegation to sympathize with the victims and other families, disclosed that President Tinubu has directed the immediate constitution of a high-power investigation committee to ascertain the remote and immediate causes of petrol tanker explosions in the country.
What has happened, and he has asked us to come here to see the situation in the hospital especially. We have just gone around the wards and we've seen those that are very critically injured, and what we are seeing here is the dire need of an emergency, a more emergency situation which the federal government is taking. The Honorable Minister of Health, NEMA, and all agencies of government that are involved will ensure that all these victims are immediately evacuated and taken to intensive care units of the immediately available tertiary hospitals here.
In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has expressed deep sorrow over the fuel tanker explosion, which caused the death of over 80 people, with many also injured. President Tinubu mourned the victims and expressed his condolences to the families affected, as well as to the government and people of Niger State. In a statement by his special advisor on information and strategy, Bayo Ononuga, the president underscores the tragic and preventable nature of the incident, as many victims were those scooping premium motor spirit from the overturned tanker. In addition, the president has mandated the National Orientation Agency to initiate a nationwide educational campaign to raise public awareness about the severe risks and environmental dangers of scooping fuel from fallen tankers. The Corps Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Corps, Shehu Mohammed, has urged tanker operators to always adhere strictly to safety standards and observe due protocols in transloading fuel products in order to prevent danger. This is in reaction to the fuel tanker incident which occurred at the Diko Junction in Niger State on Saturday, 18 January 2025. The Corps Marshal described the human losses to the inferno as disheartening and disastrous, warning that such incidents must never be allowed to happen again. He said the Accident Investigation Unit of the Corps will work in collaboration with other agencies to unravel the causes and profile solutions that could address future occurrence. Tragedy struck in Idiroko, Ipokia local government area of Ogun State, when gunmen invaded a celestial church of Christ and shot to death a 54-year-old prophet, Yomi Adetula. NTA News gathered that the assailants stormed the church located along Baggage Road, Oderan, Idiroku, around 10:30 in the morning and opened fire during the service, with 3 gunmen reportedly targeting the deceased Adetula, shooting him multiple times and subsequently mangling his head with an axe. Ogun State Police Public Relations Officer Omolola Odutola confirmed the incident, explaining that police officers raced to the scene and found Yomi Adetula lying lifeless in a pool of his blood, with police investigation revealing that the 3 assailants entered the church, brandished a long double-barrel gun aimed at their target, and fired shots that brought the deceased down. She said the remains of the deceased has been deposited at the General Hospital morgue in Ilaro, while the police has initiated efforts to apprehend the suspects who fled into the border area. Nigerian Ministers of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tuga, alongside Agriculture Minister Abubakar Kyari and Water Resources Minister Professor Joseph Telumun Utsev, are currently attending a tripartite meeting in Cairo, Egypt. At the forum, Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration Badr Abdelateh emphasized that the business meeting serves as a crucial platform for Egyptian and Nigerian entrepreneurs to engage, explore promising economic opportunities, and enhance cooperation through increased trade, investment, and knowledge exchange. He underscored that strengthening economic ties between the 2 countries is vital for laying the groundwork for peace, prosperity, and stability, noting that both nations possess significant untapped economic potential. And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues after the break with Yenre and Jume.
I am Oluremi Tinubu, the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill,
and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their social economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, 1 person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, 1 person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary health care center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge.
My people, today now.
Today, I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better,
Which gives 10x better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow. You can now see that Epic is better than
They asked me how I came this far. I told them I had to sweat. Sweat is chasing your dreams. Sweat is never giving up. Sweat is action, but can also bring germs. That's why I use Dettol Cool Soap with 5 degrees cooling sensation. Summer heat brings body odor, but Dettol Cool protects you from 99.9% of illness-causing germs and keeps you fresh.
In a world hungry for goodness, with a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Make a lunch hour a happy hour. Change no thanks into yes please. Provide care when our nearest and dearest needs it most. And resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty, nourishing family meals is all that matters. The world needs moms, because where there are moms, there is hope, happiness, and love. Golden Terra Oil, or pure love.
We don't like to eat better, more nutritious meals, more veggies, but we want it tasty and easy too. Knorr Cubes, that's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic. And enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you and more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Why is your sun shining like this?
Can't you see that Harmattan season is here? We need to protect our children from this dry weather.
What about the invisible germs?
Invisible germs?
During Harmattan, it's not enough to only protect your skin. You also need protection from these invisible germs. To protect our families, we use Dettol.
Harmattan season brings a lot of germs, but Dettol with Germ Defense gives protection from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. 1 cube, endless possibilities.
If you want to become something, become a child again. Why be a patient? If you must worry, then worry about winning. Why worry about germs? When you come home, bring tales and stories. Why bring in germs?
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Now let's take a look at the papers.
Okolie Abuja with us this morning. I don't know, miss that name.
Prompt correction. Okolie Abuja.
Okolie Abuja.
I'm from Delta State.
Sink.
How are you, ladies?
You're from Nigeria.
You're a Nigerian.
Oh, well.
Yeah, in
across
Nigeria.
the Niger, you hear Okoli.
Okay.
On this side of the night, you hear Okoli. That's the point.
Okay. So yours is
I will never loan myself to tribalistic leanings. It's killing the country.
So it's good to see you this morning. I hope you had a grand weekend.
Oh, I did. I slept well.
Wow,
I feel robust inside. I hope it shows outside as well.
Yeah, it's showing.
It will.
It's showing. Let's quickly go to the papers. We have some papers to look at this morning. I'll begin with the Vanguard newspaper. And just above the masthead of the Vanguard newspaper, LP crisis. We're heading to Supreme Court. That's from Nenedi Usman. Details on page 2. That's talking politics now. Rising international price of crude forces hike in petrol price. With riders, OPEC predicts rise in oil demand prices. Refiners, marketers to shift burden to consumers as Dangote refinery attributes new ex-depot price to surge in crude prices. You find the details all on page 5. Badenoch attacks Nigeria again, says her terrible government destroys lives. And the presidency say we are saddened by her rhetorics. Details on page 26. And just below the masthead, high interest rate, manufacturers cut back on bank loans. Credit to sector records first quarterly decline in 2 years. And the riders say manufacturers seeking other funding options. That's coming from CPP. High lending rates, output decline, discourage lending for investment. Coming from the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. And businesses postpone investment decisions from economic analysts. And a side piece of the picture story, efforts ongoing to rescue abducted AIG's wife. Coming from the police, page 10. FG probes Niger tanker explosion as death toll hits 86. Find details on page 25. At the bottom plate of the Vanguard, Serap writes Trump seeks return of stolen assets as the Zeni denies ownership of repatriated $52.8 million loot. Details on page 10. Onasanya refutes fraud allegations, vows to defend reputation. Details on page 4. CAF CC Eyimba crash in Egypt. And details on page 31. And the picture story you see there, Donald Trump arrives Washington, D.C. President-elect Donald Trump and his wife Melania on arrival in Washington Saturday to kick off days of pageantry heralding his second inauguration as president. MAGA, what awaits Nigeria as Trump mounts saddle? Find all the details on page 8 and 9. Now let's quickly go to the Daily Trust newspaper. Below the masthead of the Daily Trust newspaper, tax bills for passage March. That's coming from the Presidential Committee. Find details on page 27. Federal government re-awards Abuja Kaduna road contract. Details on page 12. Hardship, 70 million Nigerians to get 75,000 naira each. Details on page 6. And the picture side, base side of the picture story, Jonathan to Nigerians don't japa over hardship. Details on page 12. Negative portrayal of Fulani unwarranted. That is attributed to the Kano State Governor. And Israel-Hamas truce displays Gazan head home through rubbles. Details on page 42. And the picture story you see there, Niger tanker explosion, 86 buried, 43 hospitalized, others missing. One said, I lost 6 relatives. And similar incidents killed 265 Nigerians in 4 months. That's coming from the federal government. You can see the picture story of the scene of the tanker explosion at Diko, Gurara local government area of Niger State on Saturday. Yeah, right?
All right, let's see what the Blueprint is offering this morning. Quickly, we'll take a look at just a few headlines. The lead story here, of course, on all the papers, Jimmy, I think you already talked about the tanker explosion. But
I forgot. Please quickly hold on. Can we quickly go back to the Daily Trust newspaper? 6 billion Mambila power contract deal. That's the headlines on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And Obasanjo Buhari testify in Paris court. You find details on page 4. Claire.
All right. So,
sorry.
Okay, now looking at the Blueprint, the lead story here, I like the detailed report by the Blueprint. It tries to give, an insight of what has happened in the past 4 months. The headline says 265 lives lost to tanker explosions in 4 months. That's according to the federal government. The riders sets up committee to stem tide, evacuates victims to tertiary medical centers. NEMA deploys rescue team, Tinubu Buhari Mon. Away from that, ASU to federal government. Don't sacrifice Nigeria's education system for IMF policies. All right, and coming from the NNPCL, Nigeria transforming to producer, net exporter of refined petroleum products. The writer, why we issued licenses to national oil major others. That's according to NMDPRA. That's on page 6 of the Blueprint. Looking below the front page, we have police arrest child theft, trafficking syndicate in Ondo. Details on page 13. Serve as nation's conscience. Shetima urges media. That's on page 7. High inflation, interest rate hike will compound debt servicing, according to experts. And finally, I'm glad this made the headlines this morning. It says Lagos State government probes tragic drowning of 2-year-old pupil at Songo Tedo School. That's on page 13. That report, that actually happened last week in Lagos. And maybe we should take this one. Suspected assassins kill pastor during sermon in Ogun. That's on page 6. All right, Chukwudi.
I think I had refrained from talking about Kemi Badenoch. That's the leader of the Conservative Party in Britain. But I think over time, she'll start sounding like a broken record to the British public. And they'll tell her, can we hear another story from you? Because if he's trying to validate further her Britishness by chastising her roots, I think that's rather cheap. Whatever she thinks about Nigeria, she has to be diplomatic about it at this stage. I should think so. But the main story that is troubling every one of us is the recurring tanker explosions across the country. How many did we lose in 4 months? 265 lives.
In 4 months, Nigerians.
I can assure you that God did not call those people home at the appropriate time. Our habits kill them. Now, part of that habit is supervision of proper maintenance of some of these, fuel conveying vehicles. But I know that this particular case now, where
I think
86
it's to
people are set
transfer
to
from, yeah.
Exactly.
Transfer one tanker to the other.
Tanker to tanker. That would suggest that some carelessness happened. I heard about the presence of a generator. We read that as far back as 3 days ago. Yeah. You know, a generator where you are dealing with the very inflammable premium motor spirit. That's a half-wit, action. Well, many of those people are dead, so let's not malign the dead.
Yes,
but carelessness would seem to have crept into it.
Just in Jigawa, it happened recently. A lot of people died, and it's as if I don't understand if Nigerians don't listen to the news to know what happens. You can't scoop fuel, with buckets, Like the cameraman was telling us, one of them that was scooping fuel in a bucket, the fire followed him with the bucket, the trail of petrol that was pouring all the way into his house, and the people inside died.
When you say the fire leapt after him, towards him, it's a matter of you can't really calculate the speed of the the fire that trails drops of petrol. It's boom boom, whatever the distance is.
It's so sad.
It's so sad. It's so sad. We must begin to rethink what we do in the name of survival.
We can't be losing Nigerians every day like that.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
No, and Donald Trump arrives Washington, D.C. for inauguration. Today is the inauguration of the U.S. president.
Yes,
Donald Trump.
I'm not particularly one of his fans.
Yeah.
But as a journalist, I have to again, commend him for the near landslide.
Yes.
By the way, there's an adjustment in the prices of fuel.
Yes.
They say that international crude prices have moved. Crude price has moved up.
Moved up, yeah.
And of course, it's going to keep on
fluctuating.
That's the right word.
It means that's more money for Nigeria.
It's more money for Nigeria,
but it means it means petrol for the consumer.
For the consumer, it's
you might not be able to buy at $9.50 or $9.30 anymore. Where I live, it's gone up to $9.90.
Already,
if it does, yes. Of course.
I saw 1,010.
1,010.
Yeah.
He's one of these desperados. Don't worry. Watch where you go to buy fuel. Some of them are hungry.
Yeah, briefly before we go, high interest rates, manufacturers cut back on bank loans.
But that is quite...
always come back to the consumer too.
That is quite normal. When the interest rate is too high, turnover is threatened because you are depleting a lot of them. Financial resources after a market that is shrinking as well. Okay. People are not even patronizing you as much as they used to. And then to source funds is a further problem. What it's going to do is going to stagnate consumption in some areas. And that inevitably is going to again lead to higher prices.
Of course, for the consumer.
Whichever way you run, this economy is up to you.
Well, I hope but I just hope 2025 will be much better than 2024.
Yeah,
and the projections.
It's going to get better. But I am one of those who keep on telling government that if you really want things to move fast in terms of the things we consume, give more attention to farming.
Yeah.
Because farming is the one that if we give it half of the attention it should get, Nigeria can survive just trading on farm produce and all that, exporting farm-related.
Valid point.
We hope it gets better. Well, on that note, we'll have to let you go this morning. Take a break. When we return, our conversation will begin. Don't go away.
NTA say thank you to all our viewers. NTA say thank you. A good TV station means different things to different people. What made NTA stand out for you in 2024?
Babu shakka, babu wani gidan talabijin a ƙasar nan da ke nuna al'adu kamar yadda gidan talabijin na ƙasa wato NTA ke nunawa.
Kò sí ibikíbi tí ẹ wà ní orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà tí ẹ ò ti lè wo ilé-iṣẹ́ tẹlifíṣàn ìjọba àpapọ̀ NTA kétékété kódà tó fi dé abúlé wa.
Standard NTA Bataruru. Oko Okpa. Okadigun Okoko now. NTA Kalisia Kali.
Strength, information, outstanding performance. NTA got the steez.
For decades, we've towered high with sponsors as partners and viewers as pillars. And as we bid 2024 farewell, we welcome you to a superlative 2025. Because at NTA, you can't beat the reach.
NTA say thank you.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
Confidence is important in life's little moments. Strong teeth can help, even if they get her into trouble sometimes. A great smile is useful to break the ice, and making friends is easier when you know you have fresh breath. I give my family confidence with Pepsodent Triple Protection 123. Its antibacterial action formula gives them cavity protection, white teeth, and fresh breath. The confidence of 3 toothpaste in 1. Pepsodent Triple Protection 123.
We don't like to eat better, more nutritious meals, more veggies, but we want it tasty and easy too. Knorr cubes, that's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic. And enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you and more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
The new Harpic sachets. It has a thick formula, so all you need is just 1 sachet for your toilet bowl. It gives 10 times better cleaning and big savings too.
Wow, Helen!
Sparkling clean toilet with Harpic sachet.
No buy am! But why? No see say this big bull bag of rice no get the new big bull holographic seal? Not true!
Introducing the Big Bull Holographic Seal Tape, your favorite authentic Big Bull rice, 50 kg and 25 kg. Now with holographic seal tape. This is to ensure you get the premium product from Big Bull Rice. Do not buy if the holographic seal tape is not on the bag or is broken. Big Bull Rice. Tasty rice nourished you.
TerraCube. Unwrap joy. Unleash taste.
They asked me how I came this far. I told them I had to sweat. Sweat is chasing your dreams. Sweat is never giving up. Sweat is action, but can also bring germs. That's why I use Dettol Cool Soap with 5 degrees cooling sensation. Summer heat brings body odor, but Dettol Cool protects you from 99.9% of illness-causing germs and keeps you fresh.
We're live in the open market for Harpic 10X Challenge. My people, Today, I will show you how the power of new Harpic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Harpic is thicker and sticks better,
which gives 10x better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow. You can now see that Harpic is better than bleach.
If you want to become something, become a child again. Why be a patient? If you must worry, then worry about winning. Why worry about germs? When you come home, bring tales and stories. Why bring in germs?
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
All right, many thanks for leaving it locked. Still, good morning, Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And just before we get into the conversation, let's take this background report put together by our correspondent on the tax reform bills. Timothy Yusuf has this.
The Nigerian tax reform under the Tinubu administration has been a significant development as a pro-poor initiative, according to many. Findings show that the initiative by the presidency all began on July 7, 2023, when President Tinubu established a presidential committee on fiscal policy and tax reforms with Taiwo Oyedele as chairman. The committee aimed to enhance revenue collection efficiency, ensure transparent reporting, and promote effective utilization of tax revenues. Fast forward to October 3, 2024, President Tinubu submitted 4 tax reform bills to the National Assembly. They included the Nigeria Tax Bill 2024, the Tax Administration Bill, the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. Analysts believe that these bills aim to overhaul Nigeria's tax system, providing a clearer and more effective framework for taxation. They explained that the proposed reforms include a new value-added tax revenue sharing formula where 60% of VAT revenue would be allocated to the state where goods and services were consumed, 20% distributed based on population, and the remaining 20% equally shared among all states. Additionally, the reforms propose exempting individuals earning less than 800,000 annually from income tax and small businesses with turnovers below 50 million naira from corporate tax. The reforms have, however, also faced criticism, particularly from northern state governors who argue that the new VAT revenue sharing formula will unfairly shift a larger share of revenue to southern states. Despite these concerns, the Tinubu administration remains committed to pushing forward with the tax reforms, which aim to create a more equitable and efficient taxation model in Nigeria. A heartwarming dramatic shift, however, took the center stage as the Nigerian governors have resolved to support the tax reform bills proposed by President Tinubu. President Tinubu has commended the governors for their unanimous endorsement of the 4 tax reform bills currently under consideration by the National Assembly. Many say the governor's support is seen as a significant step towards promoting national interest, improving the competitiveness of Nigeria's economy, and attracting both local and foreign investments. More exposition on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Timothy, for that background report. And right now we have seated here in our studios our guests so that they can help us push the conversation and understand the tax reform better. And seated here first is distinguished Senator Simon Bakolalo. He is the senator representing Plateau South Senatorial District and former Governor of Plateau State. He was also the former chairman of the Northern Governors Forum. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Happy New Year.
And good morning, viewers.
Good morning, sir. Also joining us is another regular on the program, Professor Uche Waleke, Professor of Capital Markets at the Nasarawa State University, KEFI, and a former Commissioner for Finance in Imo State. Welcome.
Thank you,
You were
Jumai.
here last Monday, and we're here again.
Yeah, thank you, Jumai.
It's good to see you.
Good morning. Good morning,
And still
Nigeria.
joining us here in the studio is Kainde Kajeshomo. He's Deputy Director and Head Treaties and International Tax Policy Division, Tax Policy and Advisory Division, FIRS. Good morning. It's been a while.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's good to see you.
I'm happy to be here this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Also joining us for the conversation via Zoom all the way from Lagos is Segun Ajayi Kadri. He's the DG Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. And I believe we have a guest that will be joining us as the program progresses. This morning, Mr. Professor Waleke, would like to start with you. You know, I always like to get a lecture on, I always like to get a lecture on more understanding on these economic issues, these tax issues. Can you give us an overview of these tax bills, these 4 tax bills there, and for more understanding for Nigerians, because these tax reform bills, for the first time, raised a lot of controversy. Discussions across all the social media handles. People even sitting down, still talking about the tax reforms. Can you explain it to us, and why it raised so much eyebrows when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu introduced this tax reform?
Thank you so much, Jumai. Of course, we say tax is a major fiscal policy tool that the government uses to achieve macroeconomic goals. One of which is, of course, to stimulate economic growth and development. You will also want to use tax to also stimulate employment and also redistribute wealth. These are some of the goals that governments all over the world pursue. In the case of Nigeria, it became obvious that our tax system, our tax laws are, if you like, outdated. Okay, some of the laws we are operating today, if you look at, for example, the Stamp Duties Act of 2004, you are looking at even the VAT. Of course, the VAT was first introduced in 1993, and then subsequently we had amendments. Then you talk about the personal income tax. Okay, we also had amendments, I think, up to 2011. We have the company's income tax, and so on and so forth. So, it became obvious that, it was time that these tax laws, became modernized. And that was why one of the objectives of the tax reforms, is to modernize, the tax laws. And apart from modernizing them, there was also the need to even streamline them. You have pieces of tax laws here and there. So there was the need to harmonize them into one tax law. And that's why the first one you find there is the Nigerian tax bill. Yes. The Nigerian tax bill seeks to harmonize all these pieces of tax laws, whether it is the PIT, the CIT. I've told you the meanings of them. The stamp duties, the VAT, harmonize them. Then there is also the issue of even tax administration. Okay, again, there's also the need to modernize tax administration, and more importantly, to even integrate tax administration and simplify tax administration in Nigeria. And that's why we also, in addition to the Nigerian tax bill, we also have the Nigerian tax administration bill. All right? And then there is also the issue of even the relationship between the fiscal federalism, if you like, relationship between the federal government and the subnationals, again in terms of revenue, administration and collection. And if also when disputes arise, between these tiers of government, what do you do? So that's also why we also have the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. Okay, what that does, of course, currently we have the Joint Tax Board. Okay, the Joint Tax Board that is also, if you like, comprising membership is owned by the federal and the state, but that is only limited to issues around personal income tax. But the Joint Revenue Board, okay, has a broader mandate. And within the Joint Revenue Board, we also have, for the first time, the establishment of what we call the tax ombudsman. The tax ombudsman is that...
what does it do?
Yes, to protect the taxpayer, essentially. So when a taxpayer, for example, is served with a wrong assessment, where does he run to? Who does he complain to? So that is why you also have in that joint revenue establishment a tax ombudsman. And finally, there are 4 of them. Okay, they also have the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment bill. That's the 4th one. Again, what does it do? It also tries to streamline tax collection. Okay, so it seeks to replace the Federal Inland Revenue Service with the Nigerian Revenue Service, Nigerian Revenue Service, okay, which will now have the responsibility of collecting taxes that, go to the Federation account. So we won't have a case of the Nigerian Port Authority collecting revenue, the Customs collecting revenue, the NIMASA collecting revenue. Let the Customs face their primary responsibility of, border control and, trade facilitation. The collection should be done by Nigerian Revenue Service. So that's the intention. But the assessment of what is to be paid will still remain within the purview of customs. It's just that the collection will be done by a central, agent. So that will of course, reduce a lot of cuts, plug a lot of loopholes, more importantly, improve collection efficiency. So the whole idea of these tax reforms, as I said earlier on, is to modernize our tax system and ensure that collection efficiency is achieved. And more importantly, in the course of this discussion, I will talk about use tax to redistribute wealth, use tax to improve employment, to create employment opportunities, also use tax to stimulate economic growth and development. That is the primary objective of these tax reforms.
All right. Many thanks, Professor Uche Uwaleke, for that explanation and your opener for this conversation, because we'll get back to you. There are so many areas of this tax reform bills that we need to talk about. But I'd like to get to Kende Kajeshomo now, the Deputy Director in Head Treaties and International Tax Policy Division, Competent Authority Department of the FIRS. That's about to change, of course. But anyways, I want you to, expand on what Professor Uwaleke has said. He says this tax reform bills, is to modernize tax laws. But again, someone would ask, no matter how old laws are, if they are okay, if, if they do the needful, there will be no point to modernize them. It doesn't necessarily mean that what is modern is good. Okay, but just speak to us about some of the controversies, really, just in details now, some of the components of the tax reform bills and, what you know about them.
Thank you. Yesterday, I was speaking with, having discussion with some leaders in my church. And after the conversation, it dawned on me that Nigerians still have misconception about the laws, actually. Some Nigerians still believe the laws are here, the reform is to tax Nigerians more. So I think we need to continue to emphasize this, that this bill is actually here to ameliorate the sufferings of Nigerians, not to add to their burden. And that's an important message I will like to pass this morning, and I want to continue to hammer on. These bills are not here to put more pressure, more burden on Nigeria, but to reduce the burdens they currently carry. Not just individual taxpayers, but also companies. As we have it presently in Nigeria, we complain that the country is hard, but even where the country is hard, the laws are still here, the tax laws, the existing tax laws are still here. And with the tax laws, no matter the complaint, we are still going to pay tax. So if we don't bring this reform, that means Nigerians will still be carrying the burden of the existing laws. So what this new law has done is, or is going to do when it comes into effect, is to reduce the existing burdens of taxation that Nigerians currently carries. For instance, for salary earners, individuals, no matter the difficulty we face in Nigeria now, the present tax law says you are going to pay tax. And the moment your income, you earn income, you pay tax. But this new bill is saying that even if you earn income, but your income is lower than about 1 million naira per annum, that's about 84,000 naira per month. So if you earn about 84,000 naira per month, the new law says you are not going to pay tax at all. That is what is in this new bill. For small businesses, no matter the difficulty, there's issue of power, there's issue of fuel now, and so many foreign exchange. With that, with the existing tax laws, if it's not changed, if there's no reform, if your turnover is 26 million, 30 million, you are still going to pay tax. But this new bill has increased that threshold that if you earn as a company, if your turnover is lower than 50 million, you are not going to pay tax at all. In this present law that we have now, no matter the challenges businesses face, if they don't make profits, that is what I also want you to understand. If they don't make profits, they will pay tax under the existing law if nothing is changed. So what this new law now says is that if you don't earn profit, you will not pay tax, because the new policy is we are not going to tax capital. We only tax returns, profits. So this new bill is changing the old ways that says even if you don't make profit, you must pay tax. But this new law says if you don't make profit, why should we ask you to pay tax? Because tax is meant to be on profit. So this new bill is reducing that, or is taking away that burden of paying tax from your capital. And it's saying if you don't make profit, you are not going to pay tax. For businesses, there is incentive for them to employ, because now we are complaining about challenges of unemployment. This new bill has said, or is going to say, that employer, we are encouraging you to employ more. If you employ more than what you had before, there's a certain incentive we are going to give you. So what will that do? It will improve employment. It will encourage companies to employ more people. And when companies employ more people, it reduces unemployment.
What kind of incentive are you talking about here?
Okay. There is a certain deduction. Salary you pay. So ordinarily if I have 10 staff, their salaries are allowed to be deducted as expense. But this new bill now says, if you employ more, we are going to give you more deduction. So if, for instance, you pay your employee 10 million, under the existing law, what you only deduct is that 10 million. But that new law says, we are going to allow you to deduct more than the 10 million. So what it means is that the profit that will be taxed will be reduced. So because companies are going to now pay less tax, they will be encouraged to employ more. Now, under the present law, if you don't change it, as a business, you have more than 50 taxes to pay. You have more than 30 tax laws to comply with if you don't change it. So the modernization we are talking about is saying, this is a burden on you. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world that you get your businesses to comply with more than 30 tax laws. What time will they have to do their businesses? So what this new law is saying is that you don't have more than 4 tax laws to comply with. You are not going to have more than 9 taxes to pay, down from 50-something taxes you were paying. That is what is in this new law. We salary earners, there is reduction in the taxes we are going to pay. There are some category that will not pay tax at all. The 84,000 per month I spoke about. Then for others, if you earn salary, if your salary at the end of the month is not more than 1.2 million, your taxes you are paying under this new law will reduce. Of course, you are still going to pay tax for those categories.
What's the percentage?
The percentage of what
yes,
you're going to pay. So it's not a specific percentage. What I was done is the graduation rate, because the higher you earn, the higher your rate of tax. So now the band, the rate band was changed to the essence that by the time you compute your tax, the amount you ordinarily should pay will reduce. So this is how it was done. Before, it starts with if you earn an income from 0 to 300,000, you pay tax at 7%. Those categories will not even pay tax at all. So under the band. Then the next band is the 11% band, the next 300,000. We pay tax at 11%. Now, because from 0 to 800,000, it's not going to pay tax at all. So that category that also pay at 11% is also gone. The next band is 500,000. And that 500,000 we pay tax at the next rate, which is 15%. That band is also gone. That because it's still, by the time you add 300 plus 300 plus 500, that's still 800. And 800 under the existing law, we still pay tax as 0%. So that is how it was done to ensure that the amount you are going to pay now, when it is computed, is very small. I mean, smaller. And another thing is, why, as an individual, why should you go look for consultants before you pay your tax? Because of the difficulty, the complexity of the present laws. So the modernization you are talking about is to now say, let's make our tax law so simple.
Okay.
So everybody I can sit down, compute my tax. You can sit down, compute your tax, know how much you will pay.
Yes, exactly. And I think the reason why a lot of discussions was going around the tax, implementing policies without engaging citizens, in consultation, and lack of inclusivity is what raised a lot of alarm around the tax fund. And now we are bringing in distinguished Senator Simon Bakola into the conversation, because you are directly engaged with the people. Understanding the tax bills depends on how much they understand it and how much they should pay the bill, because the lack of understanding is what caused what we're going through now. And most people said, well, before the people could understand, before the federal government can explain the tax reform bills, the governors hijacked it. So let's take a listen to what you have to say.
Thank you very much. Let me say that I'm privileged, first, as a former governor, and also chairman Northern Governors Forum. Again, I was also privileged to be the Director General of the campaign for the President and the Vice President. So many of those things, I'll say, are within my knowledge. First, let me say that, like other laws in Nigeria, many of our laws are outdated. It cannot even go into the system now. Talking about the tax law, people look at it as if this is the very first time they are introducing it. It is not. This thing came up about 3 years ago. I will say 3 years ago, when at the Governors Forum, we realized that there were a lot of difficulties. You understand, there was subsidy. There was conversation around subsidy. And then conversation around what are we going to do? We envisaged and we saw economic dangers ahead of us. And so I would like what the president was always saying when we were doing campaign. We had summit with the business community. And he said, look, what I'm seeing is that as if we are going to be drawing water in an empty well. So what do we do? I want you to help me think out of the box. So I am sure the tax laws that are coming today are products of those thinking out of the box. So at that time, if anybody was thinking that everything was going to be all right because we are all going to be concentrating on the law, on petroleum, on oil, it was not that. So for me, there was nothing wrong with the tax laws. Like you said, communications. At the time we were doing that sensitization, I will say that only politicians, politicians were really very busy with campaigns. So, well, there were a lot of education. I sat down and I listened when we had a summit in Lagos, when we had 1 year with the business community, and another one was it in Kaduna or so, and those issues came. Part of the conflict, let me tell you, was some governors went to court on VAT. That is the basic thing. People are not ready to say the truth. Some governors, because the conflict that we're seeing today is about VAT. It's not about the other aspect of the tax laws. They are very fantastic. And then to avoid throwing away the baby with the bathwater, there were a lot of conflicts here and there. Very few people understand, but many people do not understand. If you go to the local man, when people say, yes, as governors hijack, I don't want to use the word governors hijack. Governors are supposed to be the driving force.
Yes.
because they are the advisors to Mr. President at the Economic Council. So they listened to what people were saying. And it was their duty to explain that, look, let us go back again and discuss with the people. So that was where we had that dispute. I'm a member of National Assembly. Even when it went there, we said, look, let's tarry a little. Let's explain to the people, let them understand. When they understand, this bill will have its way. Some people were of the view that, no, we can't listen, we can't delay this. Let's rush and pass the bill. And let's rush and pass the bill. They were forgotten that these matters are still at the Supreme Court. Two governors. Yes. So when you see they say it's between North and South, I disagree. It wasn't an issue of North and South. It was an issue of two states against the other, or the members of the Federation. Because those matters, if you go to the court, you will still see them. They are Rivers, Lagos, against the rest of Nigeria on issue of VAT. On issue of VAT.
But why are governors insistent on, on the issue of VAT? Why is it so important?
Well, you can see it from the explanation. At that time, let me tell you, at that time, it was an issue of the right of the states to collect VAT, to collect VAT. Well, if at that time, without enough sensitization, you allow that, it means some states will be at advantage, heavy advantage over other states. Lagos will be at advantage, Rivers will be at advantage, but the remaining part of the state will also be very, very poor. They can't collect VAT and they can't even use what they proceed. But today, because we needed all of us to meet together at the level of the Governors Forum, let me now speak on behalf of the Northern Governors. When we saw that danger, we went back to the Governors Forum, the Northern Governors Forum. I said, look, we are seeing danger. If at the end of the day they succeed in the Supreme Court, it means those of us in the North will be suffering. A lot, you can't go back. What are you going to collect? There is no VAT on agriculture and all the allied products. So what are we going to rely on? That was why we set up various committees at the Northern Governors Forum. The Economic Committee, the Security Committee, the Youth Committee, and everything. And that was what propelled us to get even to the level of struggling to go back and commission the oil in Bauchi. You remember the Colmani? We said, let's go back to Colmani. Let's go back to the basic. Let's go back to what was in the North, textile and everything. So it gives opportunity to states who are relying on federation account to also think out of the box. I think, to me, it's a good thing.
All right.
Because now it has enlightened people. All the governors are saying they are struggling. I will take it as a governor. They are struggling because they are thinking of what to do. Why they are saying allow us to explain to the people is let us explain so that we are not taken taken by surprise. And I will also say that yes, they are talking to a president who is a Democrat. When people say no, he is not going to listen, I say no. I work with him. I know the president is listening. Even when he says this, he's listening because he's a man that he will say this in the afternoon. In the night, he's doing dialogue. He's calling people and doing dialogue. I know him so many times that he invited the governors, so many people, and went into dialogue. So you can see the delay. The delay has also come out with something today. Yes. Now the governors have agreed and said, this is our position, Mr. President. Mr. President said, okay, I listen. I agree with you. At the end of the day, when you put them together and you get back to National Assembly, of course, the National Assembly, with due respect to the National Assembly, I'm not a spokesman for National Assembly. I'm also a member of the National Assembly. I know that at the end of the day, it will go. This bill will have a smooth sail because if you don't engage the governors and you go back as the National Assembly to your various states, and the governor disagrees with you, it's very easy for them to listen to the governor, and then you find people voting different ways. So I must say that I've identified the conflict, the areas of conflict, because I also want, as a person, to ask them, why is Lagos and Rivers, why are you still at the Supreme Court? This matter is also already being captured by the tax laws. And if this thing is agreed, then they should go back and withdraw all those cases. withdraw all cases from the court, so that no suspicion is created between North or between the South.
All
and
right.
I said it is not between North and South. It is
Thank you very
between some
much.
few states and the federation and the federation. So I must commend the approach too of Mr. President, and I also commend the governors for even sitting down, agreeing within themselves, so that people are not seen as if they are hijacking.
Thank
they are
you.
not hijacking.
Thank you very much,
anything.
Senator Lalong. Of course, we'll get back to you.
All right.
This conversation continues. Let's get to the man, DG now. Segun Ajayi Kadri, I'm sure you've been listening to the conversation. Of course, we'll talk about some of the resolutions reached by the governor, by the governors, much later in this conversation, and if some of those considerations would actually move the nation forward. But I want you to speak to us how these tax reforms, affects you and those in your association. Manufacturers. Speak to us about the CIT, the company income tax, the rate, that it would be when this takes effect. Is that okay by the manufacturers? Because, of course, I've listened to so many conversations. Some have said, well, the fact that companies, get to service themselves, power, water, a lot of things that, they have to deal with on their own. The rate for the CIT is a bit too high, and they're seeking for a reduction. I want to hear your view about all of this.
Okay. Again, thank you for having me. I think I would like to join those who commented earlier about the tax reform, which is exemplified now in the tax bills, the 4 tax bills that are before the National Assembly. We all agree that it's necessary for us to reform, and just the way it is giving relief to the private citizens of Nigeria, is also giving relief to business. And I think that's why earlier on we made it clear that manufacturers stand fully behind the tax reform. Apart from the ease of doing business, there is the cost of doing business. And this is what directly relates to the tax reform. We've seen, and I think it's been said on this platform, that an average manufacturer in Nigeria pays between 60 to 120 different taxes, levies, and fees. In some cases, they can't even differentiate between what they are applying by different tiers of government, the federal, the state, and local governments, and quite importantly, non-state actors. So we are buffeted from so many angles. So when you have a reform that tries to streamline all of this and makes it definite about what you are expected to pay, even from the beginning of the year, it helps your planning. It helps predictability. You are able to make up your mind how to run your business and what to expect. I think that what has become very controversial is the VAT. And there are quite a number of reform that has taken place. And most comments have been about the rate of VAT, not taking a holistic view at the reform of VAT, which has tended to correct many abnormalities and made it important for us to have specific rates. When it was 7.5%, the effective VAT rate was much higher. But the critical one you have asked is the CIT. And I think that's the only area that one will be happy if the governors are able to rethink. Because the support of the governors is very critical. And I believe that's why you mentioned it. Critical in the sense that there's really no federal citizen in Nigeria. All of us belong to various states. And we know the important role that the governors play. Many of us focus on the federal budget, but there are 36 plus 1 budgets outside that of the federal government. And the way it is spent, the way it is expended, will affect individuals and businesses more especially. So the view they have taken in terms of not reducing CIT appears to run contrary to global trends. You will see, for instance, that the global average for corporate income tax is 23.51%, which means that even bringing it to 25% as proposed in the bill is still above the global average, but better than the 30% that we have it. If we look at leading economies in the world, Russia is 20%, America is 21%, the UK and China 25%. In fact, Singapore is 17%, which shows that there is merit in reducing the CIT rate. If you look at our competitors in Africa, South Africa, I think, is about 27%, Algeria is 26%, Ghana, our neighbor, is 25%, and Egypt, a rising economy, is 22.5%. So we needed to move in the direction of the world and to deliberately incentivize investment and make it easier for existing companies to be able to do business. Like you already mentioned, there are so many factors that are affecting business: infrastructure, policy, insecurity, quite a number. So when you are able to give relief in a way that is structured, in a way that is effective, and in a way that investors will be able to touch, we believe that it's going to yield a lot of gain. And it's one of the significant positive measures that people have seen in this reform. If you ask me, I think many people talk about the boldness of Mr. President. I think the boldest move he has made since he became president is actually allowing this tax reform, because it affects everybody. It is one way of the elites who have been known to historically benefit from the economic activities to give back to those who are vulnerable. It is a way of demonstrating that, look, you guys, we know that you operate in a difficult environment. You know that you have been disadvantaged in the scheme of things. This is relief for you, the ones that you can touch. I mean, how will you, for instance, in good conscience, ask somebody who is earning 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 to come and pay tax? Which tax? The guy is already poor and deserving of support. So I believe one direct way you can do is to put more money in his hands. And the VAT we are talking about is a consumption tax. So the more people are able to consume, the more the benefits to the states, the more productivity is improved because you have increased capacity. As we speak, manufacturers have about 1.4 trillion of unplanned inventory. That's what they have produced that they are not able to sell. So we need to put more money in the hands of people to be able to make those purchases. And then we'll be able to continue to address the issues. The tax has also affected us in terms of the cost of doing business. You have different tiers of government imposing tax in one form or the other. And there are about 40 bills now in the National Assembly that are targeting the profit of manufacturers and of businesses, not to even talk of the fact that those profits have been downgraded effectively, that many of them are declaring losses, and some of them are even leaving the country because of challenges that they have. So the tax bill is like a lifeline in some form to the manufacturing sector that I represent and to businesses in general. It's been applauded, and I believe that Nigerians deserve that we speedily pass these bills, ensuring that we also have diligent implementation. My colleague there on this program, Prof, has indicated the wide spectrum that this tax reform covers. And I believe that Nigerians should look at it in that light and see the urgency to pass this bill so that we can start to reap the fruit even in the lifespan of this administration. This will be a missed opportunity if we do not implement this tax bill. And the relief that industries, business people are already looking forward to may be lost. So I believe that the tax is positive and that well-meaning Nigerians should focus on maximizing the advantages we have in it and seize the moment and the momentum we have gathered to make it pass.
Indeed, I like the fact that you said this is the boldest move by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to rejig the economy and bring us back, and put us at par with other nations. And we all know the president has said there's no going back on the tax reform bills, but negotiation and consultations will continue. Let's bring in Professor Waleke into this conversation. I remember when the Chairman Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms was speaking at the platform. He said, and I quote, Nigeria lived in window-dressed realities before now, and this tax reform will sort of open our eyes to the opportunities that other countries have been getting, from tax, and tax has been the driving force of their economy. Now let's talk about, the transformation that this tax reform will bring into development in this country. We need a lot of development. So many things are not working, and President Tinubu is saying that with this tax reform, what we are going to get out of it will help. But with more explanations, multiplicity of taxation has been killing small businesses in Nigeria. So how can it impact small businesses now? The FIRS man has explained that it's pro-vulnerable population. Yeah. How can Nigerians begin to understand it is pro them, it is for them, and if they support it, at the end of the day, maybe in the next 5 years, Nigerians will just be on a super highway of economic development and growth.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jumai. Well, at the risk of sounding theoretical, let me maybe look at it this way. Today we are also bothered about, the size of GDP. And what is that GDP? If you look at GDP from the point of view of spending, you have the consumption, private consumption expenditure, you have investment by firms, you have government expenditure, then you have net exports. Now, when you have a tax system, remember I started by saying that one of the objectives is to drive economic growth and development. You have a tax system that seeks to improve or enhance disposable income. Okay? What is disposable income? Your income minus tax. So the further your taxes are reduced, the more disposable income you have, and the more you're able to consume. So that also translates to improvement in GDP. He has made the point. The exemptions, for low-income earners will increase their disposable income. So by the time you have savings of, say, 83,000 naira, for example, maybe per annum, okay, that may also, even trickle into the investments. Because remember, investment is a function of savings, and that's also a function of income. So the larger the income you have, the more you're able to save, and the more you're also able to invest. So today we are talking about, again, let me go to my area. We are talking about the fact that retail investor base in the capital market is very shallow. Okay? We're also talking about the fact that mutual funds, the size of mutual funds, is very little. For a country as big as Nigeria, we have over 200 million people, and yet the participants in the mutual fund space, fewer than 1 million. So we expect that when the people's disposable income is increased, okay, the capital market, retail investor base, mutual fund size will likely, increase. Now, you can also make that argument even on the part of firms. So we have seen it. You said it over 60 different types of taxes. If you interview a typical a small business owner or a typical, businessman, he will tell you one of his challenges, apart from access to credit, apart from infrastructure challenges, is this multiplicity of taxes. So right now, it's going to be streamlined. It's going to improve the ease of doing business. Okay, and the fact that even for small businesses, the threshold has been increased, just as he mentioned. Okay, from 20 million to 50 million will also help. Let me also add my voice to the issue of the CIT. The CIT again, yes, the governors reached an agreement, and I want to commend the governors forum for all those agreements they reached, particularly with respect to even the issue of VAT. Okay, VAT, the governors have said they don't want to hear, they stand the VAT should be maintained at 7.5%. Okay, they're also saying with respect to sharing, the formula, the derivation component, which the committee proposed at 60%, should now become 30%. Okay, while equality should be 50% and population 20%. They have also said that the issue of which is also one of the controversial areas, the issue of the terminal clause for TED fund, NASENI, and NIDA, okay, should be halted. Okay, they've reached all that agreement, and more importantly, if you look at the number one thing they said in the communique, that they all endorse the tax reforms. Okay, so, but again, the only way I have reservation, which is also why I'm happy that even the bills, the legislative process will still continue. I expect that there will be public hearing, okay, people to also come and talk. My only concern with that communique is also the issue of the company's income tax, where they have also said it should not be reduced. Now, the proposal, as you had the DG man, talk about, is that company's income tax should be reduced from the current 30% to 27.5% this year, and from 2026, the CIT should become, 25%. Okay, that's the proposal, and I had wished that, the governors would have allowed that. But their fear, of course, understandably, would be doing so, could reduce the money that goes to the federation account, and that will also, affect, what they get to share. But the truth of the matter is, if you look at the tax reform bills, if you look at it holistically, at the end of the day, okay, what goes into the federation account will even be more than what they currently, get. So reduction in that company's income tax will go a long way to also, on the part of businesses, also put them in a more, a stronger position to plow back whatever they have made and also invest. So that is the I part of that CIG X minus M thing I talked about, and that will also improve, GDP. And particularly for CIT, again, the point has been made. We need to be competitive in Africa. Sub-Saharan average is, less than 25%. He mentioned it in Ghana. The CIT rate is 25%. In Egypt, the CIT rate is 22.5%. Okay. In South Africa, just reduced their own from 28% to 27%. Okay. It's only in Kenya that you have CIT at 30%. So we need to be competitive. If an investor, for example, is thinking of coming to invest in maybe, like I said, any economy in sub-Saharan Africa, and he wants to use tax as the basis for that investment, he wouldn't come to Nigeria.
Okay.
Okay. Because of the high income, CIT.
Yes. Away from the CIT, which a lot of people do not agree that, it should remain at the rate it's been pegged, by the governors. Another issue, you touched on it, but some don't agree that the revised value-added tax sharing formula is the way to go. The governors have agreed on 50% equality, 30% based on derivation, 20% based on population. Some say that the derivation should be up to 50% at least, away from what the tax reforms is suggesting, which is 60%. Some other people on the other side say derivation should go as low as 10%. So, that's still an issue at the moment. But I would like to hear what you think, and if with this agreed formula by the governors, if it will not defeat the aim of the tax reform bills in general, having the derivation put at 30%, equality at 50%, and the population at 20%, how, this will eventually, turn out once it's implemented. Also speak to us about why the Federal Inland Revenue Service is the targeted administration charge is 4% in this bill. Some say it should be as low as 1%. So speak to us about that, Kendi Kajev Shomo.
Thank you for the question, and I think I will quickly start from the last. The collection of FRS at 4%, there's nothing in this bill that puts collection fee for FRS at 4%. No, it's not in this bill. In fact, in the old bill, it's not actually there. What government, National Assembly, in their wisdom, what they do is that when we present our budgets, they look at how much out of this revenue of FRS would be able to finance their activities, because they need to pay staff, they need to have offices, they need to deploy technology, and all those expenses, overhead. So the National Assembly, in their wisdom, will look at how much percentage of their collection can meet up this responsibility. So over the years, the National Assembly, in their wisdom, annually have been determining that 4%. So if you go to the present FRS Establishment Act, what it says that the National Assembly should determine the rate out of the non-oil collection. So it's actually not even on oil collection, it's only on non-oil collection. So the National Assembly, their wisdom, presently have been using 4%. So when this new bill is passed, as I said, there's no percentage there also. It's still the same National Assembly, in their wisdom, that will still determine that percentage. So they will look at the function of FRS and determine the percentage that will be able to take care of their functions and responsibilities. Because don't forget, if you want an organization to perform, you have to fund them. Because they said FRS is, if you, our governor, our former governor will testify that for the past few years, it has been FRS that have been bringing money to the table, FAC, for sharing. So if you want them to consistently bring money for sharing, that means you have to improve their capacity to collect. So that's the provision of the bill. There's nothing that there's no percentage stated in the bill. Then coming back to the VAT issue, the committee in their they look at the present issues, and our former governor and senator has mentioned the fact that maybe the issue is from a previous issue that are on ground, the present conflict. So when this issue came up, I don't know whether from the committee but I think there was no proper communication to let the governors know that the new rules is actually to their benefit. I'm not a politician, so this one will now affect me anyway. And of course, the governors in their wisdom have decided, but actually, what has been changed, what we are changing from, actually, in my view, and I'm in support of that committee, that it will better reflect the situation in Nigeria. And what is the situation? There's this misconception that the president, what the committee did, the 60% the committee did was to benefit some Lagos, but actually it was actually meant to correct that anomaly. Because there was an anomaly that when companies file returns, VAT returns, they file VAT returns based on their head office. So the governors, I think most people that were speaking on the bill were looking at section 77, the one that shared. But they did not look at section 22, subsection 12, that speaks about what you do before you share. So what you do before you share is in section 22.12. It says that when you are submitting returns subsequently, don't submit returns based on head office. Submit returns based on where that consumptions take place. So it's going to change from the present rule that make a company that is located in Lagos, headquartered in Lagos, that file returns as if all the VAT is coming from Lagos. But based on section 22.12, it's going to file returns based on this was consumed from so and so place, this is consumed from so and so state, this is consumed from so and so state. So when that VAT has been allocated based on where it is consumed, that's when the derivation, the rule in section 77 now comes in.
So that's where the little misunderstanding is.
The little misunderstanding. So I'm of the view that I'm not contradicting the governor. They are in their wisdom, and I know they also have economic advisor that might have advised them. But in my personal view, I align with the committee that the previous provision will have benefited those states more. But now we have the new agreement, and we hope it will be passed. And
yes, because we all know VAT is where the big money is. Actually, that's where most countries make most of their money. I hear you have another appointment right now, so we have to let you go.
Thank you.
Kajeshomo, Deputy Director and Head, Treaties and International Tax Policy Division, Tax Policy and Advisory Division, FIRS. I'm sure it is a continuing conversation on the tax reforms until it is implemented. So we hope to see you soon. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes,
thank you.
So we'll take a break. When we return, our conversation will continue.
It's important in life's little moments. Strong teeth can help, even if they get her into trouble sometimes. A great smile is useful to break the ice, and making friends is easier when you know you have fresh breath. I give my family confidence with Pepsodent Triple Protection 123. Its antibacterial action formula gives them cavity protection, white teeth, and fresh breath. The confidence of 3 toothpaste in 1. Pepsodent Pepsodent Triple Protection 1, 2, 3.
They ask me how I came this far. I told them I had to sweat. Sweat is chasing your dreams. Sweat is never giving up. Sweat is action, but can also bring germs. That's why I use Dettol Cool Soap with 5 degrees cooling sensation. Summer heat brings body odor, but Dettol Cool protects you from 99.9% of illness-causing germs and keeps you fresh.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
If you want to become something, become a child again. Why be a patient? If you must worry, then worry about winning. Why worry about germs? When you come home, bring tales and stories. Why bring in germs?
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
When we think about the digital economy, you can see it as the marketplace for digital goods and services. And increasingly, it's becoming a force to reckon with and an incredible contributor to economic growth, because we've seen the growth in technology and digital platforms. Technology has it really permeated every aspect of life and business, the way we live, the way we work. And when we talk about the digital economy, we're really talking about leveraging technology and digital platforms in a powerful way to drive growth, to drive solutions to problems, to drive applications, and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that has the potential to help Nigeria leapfrog a lot of its development challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system, where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like, capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture, people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Can we imagine a system where we're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it helps you to transcend boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And, technology platforms also help drive collaboration right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us an opportunity to engage more actively, to collaborate, to create partnerships, to even export our knowledge and services for people to engage with all the great things I'm talking about technology and digital platforms. They need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user.
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
All right, many thanks for remaining with us. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA, and we're looking at the tax reform bills developments, arising as a result of it, and all the different issues. I guess they're still very much with us, and we'd like to get to Senator Lalong now. And you were speaking earlier. I was listening to you, Kinley, and you talked about the fact that the tax reform bills was born out of the desire to think outside the box. And, thinking outside the box, many would say that the governors that have now endorsed revised value-added tax just in the bid to, get more money for their states, with this 50% on equality, 30% based on derivation and 20% based on population, should be thinking outside the box, in other areas on how to generate revenue and make lives better for the people in their states. Some have also questioned that, with this tax reform bills, it may just mean that there will be more money to share amongst the states, but may not necessarily affect the lives of the average Nigerian. So I want you to speak to us about, what you think, the governors should be doing outside the tax reform bills. Of course, speak to us about this new value-added tax formula, if you think that it's for the progress of the nation or just a section of the country.
Well, I won't say that. Let me not draw a conclusion, because first, sometimes discussing this issue at this time, I'm a member of the Finance Committee that is looking up to this, and let it not be a conclusion of the Senate on this issue. Number two is that all we wanted was a process like this, for the governors to have opportunity to go back and dialogue with their people, for the president to also have interface with a lot of people on this, to listen to people. From this agreement, I think the president listened to people. The governors also bet their point. I think they can also well go back to tell their people that they are also representing the people. The same thing with the National Assembly members. So many of us were worried, because if the way and manner it was going, it would be difficult to go back and start explaining. We are politicians. There will be different conclusions at the end of the day. You will hear that in lots of places, even in religious institutions, people were already preaching because they didn't understand. They will just go there in the mosque and say, no. Anybody that was supporting this will declare him a kafir. You are infidel. So such things were there. And so in a democracy like our own, you need to allow people to get to know the basic, or allow people, like Prof has explained. This is an opportunity. People are listening. Many people will understand that. Now, the aspect of what you are saying, as a governor, as a listening governor, I'm talking about even the time that we had this, like I said. Let me give you an example. When I was chairman of the Northern Governors Forum, when I knew that there was going to be a problem of subsidy, when I knew that almost these challenges that were going to come in, well, the petrol, they will tell you, the petrol is not even going to serve our interests again. So looking outside the box was not only federal government. Now, as state governors, what are we looking at? What are we looking at? I always ask them. Are you sitting and talking about VAT? Are you sitting and talking about oil will bring money to you? In your own case, what are you clicking at? Nigeria is enriched with so many endowments. In the north here, we have minerals, solid minerals. You can see the attempt to go back to agriculture. You see so many opportunities for people, for the governors. So I expect that if the governors are going to think of getting money from this, it's not money that will be shared as politicians, normal one. It's money that will be reinvested or invested into the states so that it will make more, even more additional revenue for taxes to the federal government. You must also use that money in deploying technology. Somebody mentioned, yes, he left, when he mentioned about the fears, those fears about the percentage, part of it is that they will say that there are no infrastructures. The infrastructures of measuring the yardstick, of measuring the percentage, the states are not there. They are not there in the states. So how do you sit down to know that this is going to be what you have collected, real what you are collecting, and that is the percentage? Those were some of the problems. So I expect that the governors should also be looking at it that way. If the president was bold enough on the subsidy, is bold enough on this issue, then we must be ready to also join in supporting the president, because Nigeria is a federation. Because if one area collapses, it will affect the others. So the answer that was said, because when everything goes like we're doing, everybody was saying President Tinubu is the cost president. Each time we'll say, okay, what about the states? What about the states? The states will also hide under the opinion of people and say, oh, Mr. President, I saw even some governors say it is certain policies that are brought by Mr. President that is affecting them, that is impoverishing the nation. But I know that it is not true. It is not true, because in various states you have opportunities. If Lagos has an opportunity, if Rivers will have an opportunity, all others have different. God has blessed us with different things. We ran back to our states. I went back to my state. I said, what is it that is going to bring back the revenue? There was the Boribun Jos International Breweries, which was paying salaries in my state. I said, look, let's bring it back. There was back farm, very big farm, the biggest farm, which was sold out. I bought back those farms. I said, let's go back to the back farms. I attempted to rebuild the main market in Plateau State. That market was paying salaries for civil servants. Religion came into it, and it was abandoned. Today, you go back, you find that they are grappling with revenue. Why would you sit down and wait for Mr. President? So it is opportunity, because so that we don't have this kind of conflict and gray areas and start blowing the conflict to the point where a very good policy like tax reform will be thrown out. If the president was not a good politician, like I said, if he was another politician, they would just say, okay, the trouble is too much. Let me just withdraw this thing. But president said, no, I will go ahead with it. And his going ahead was not saying that he was insisting. He was saying that I'll go ahead while conversation, dialogue is continuous. And this dialogue, like I said, has helped us. Even if we're not going to get all, at least we've reached a point where there is an agreement between the governors on some substantial aspect of this tax reform.
But some also think that the governors should not be the determinants of how this bill should end up, because the people, you know, should also have a say, you know, in all of this, such that the National Assembly should call for a public hearing outside what the governors have agreed to find out if the people agree with some of these conditions by the governors. Because, I mean, like you have rightly said, in some states, they don't feel the presence of their governors.
No. The National, they have not said the National Assembly is not going to conduct a public hearing. The aspect of the National Assembly is there. But like I said, all National Assembly members come from their states. Politics is local. That's this, you know that. All politics are local.
Yes, we know that.
Yes, so you have to go back to your state. And when you go back to your state to do dialogue, you are going to do it under the governor. The governor, who is the governor? The governor. Number two, the governors, by the laws of Nigeria, are the advisors on economic matters to Mr. President at the National Economic Council. So they are the advisors. And from what they do is that they collective decisions of their state. And then they come back to tell Mr. President, these are the fears from my state. It's not for him, it's for the state. And by the time you get back, you are talking about voting. You can't vote and say you keep the governor away. The governor must participate in decisions from his state. 3 senators come from the state. I was the governor. Anything they are going to do here, they'll come back and meet me, Mr. Governor, what are we going to do? Even this one that they were doing, my governor invited me to bring all the National Assembly members. We came back to him, and he said, look, I don't know, you people are going to do the voting. This is what we are discussing. How are we going to do this thing? And we told him, yes, it is good that you call us. If you didn't call us, we will go and vote without you. But now that you call us, let you tell us. We also want you to tell us, let's get the collective views of Plateau people. What are they thinking about this loss? And at that dialogue, many people brought out the good. Some people brought out part of the disadvantage to this bill, and we harmonized them together. And when we did that, we gave him the go ahead. You also go and join your colleagues. Please, this is what we think about this bill. It is good, but let us not be in a hurry to throw it out.
When you talk about dialogue, I have to pause you there so that we can go to Lagos. When you talk about dialogue,
Yes.
the argument is the government put the cart before the horse,
Yes.
because was there no consultation with the Governors Forum before the tax bill was introduced to the Nigerian public? That is the number one question. And,
Yes.
I have to bring in Segun Ajayi Kadri into this conversation. We all know that manufacturing has pushed industrial revolutions across centuries, across states, and manufacturing is a key component of economic growth. I hear that you are supporting these tax reforms because it will favor the manufacturing sector. Moving ahead after this consultation and everything, were you part of the consultation? Was the manufacturing sector part of the conversation before the tax bill was introduced to the public? And are you still part of the consultation and dialogue ongoing now?
Thank you very much. Certainly, man has always been in the loop in terms of arriving at the conclusions of the committee. It's been widely publicized, and I think the chairman of the presidential committee has also mentioned. Apart from the fact that the business community was ably represented on the committee itself, there were several platforms that the committee engaged us as manufacturers, both at sectoral levels and even in terms of location. So you have the input derived from the north, the west, and the east and the south. We've also had sectors that have specific issues discussed with the committee, and we've been able to arrive at positions that have been effectively reflected in the output. I believe that the consultation of this committee, and in my adult life, I have never seen a committee that consulted this widely. Apart from the composition of the committee itself, there were several segments. Even the students were represented in the committee. We've also had professionals consulted. The state governors were also consulted. I'm aware that on several occasions, the committee was to meet with the Governors Forum, but maybe because of the exigency of office, they couldn't honor such invitations. But I'm aware that more than 4 times they have attempted to meet. And also we had the FRA, the State Revenue Service. They also have some representatives on that committee. So I believe that we had a wide range of consultation. But the truth of it is that consultation is a continuous process. And you may even consult with somebody last month, and maybe the objective condition under which you operate has changed. So we must continue to refine the process. We must continue to work on the bills such that when it is eventually passed, it represents our collective wisdom and agreement. The manufacturing sector is very critical. I've always said that manufacturing is not just like any other business. It is a strategic choice that a nation has to make. So if you are industrialized, you are wise. I'm not aware of any economy in the world that does not have a virile manufacturing sector that supports its national growth. In this part of the world, we have a very big population, 250 million people. Where are you going to get people employed? Where are you going to achieve the inclusive growth? Where are you going to achieve the 1 trillion economy that the president aspires to? Who is going to get the 1 million jobs that the president is looking for? So except you mainstream the interest of the sector in whatever reform you are making, and that speaks to why MAN and other organized private sector groups were actively involved. In fact, I believe that tax is so important that whether or not the committee should call you, you should be the one to even go to the committee and say, look, I have issues. And I'm aware that the committee actually received requests for consultations and effectively consulted with ministry, departments, and agencies of government, private sector group, professional groups, and they offered excellent advice to the committee. I, for instance, had fantastic opportunities to lead my sectoral groups to have a conversation with the committee. And we are, like I said, we are satisfied with it. The VAT that is
Shegun Ajayi Kadri, good to know that the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria are satisfied with the tax reform bills. I'd like to get to Professor Uche Waleki as we round up this conversation now. It's one thing to be satisfied. It's another thing when it comes to implementation. I read a report that by July, if this is passed, by March, okay, well, all of this will be implemented. But some people, some analysts, economists that I've listened to have said that in the implementation process, it should be phased, from one phase to the other, not wholly. Some say it's like if you want to treat an ailment, like doctors will prescribe a drug in the morning, afternoon, and evening. They don't tell you, okay, take 10 drugs all at once. Just like with the subsidy regime and all of that. Some said if it was in phases, maybe the economy would have been a bit stable. But I want to know what you think about this. And then what's your final take about the VAT issue? Some say the 7.5% should be reduced to, say, about 5%. Just speak around this on a final note as we round up the conversation.
Okay, quickly, let me start from the last one.
In 30 seconds, please. One at a time, yes.
Okay, the one of 7.5%, VAT again. And there was a time I did an article on, an article that says there was need for us to look at the tax mix that we have in this country and make it in favor of, consumption tax. And when you say reduce the 7.5% VAT rate, you also, as I talked about being competitive, you also look around us. Ghana, for example, the VAT rate is 15%. If you go to South Africa...
Well, consider the inflation figures at the moment.
Yes, so the point is this. If you further reduce that, for example, it may also affect the size of the revenue. Let me say, generally, that I think the subnationals, will benefit a lot from this tax reforms. 30 minutes. Yes, the FG is ceding 5% of what they used to have, from VAT, is ceding it to the...
Many thanks, Professor Uche Waleki.
I have to get the last words from Distinguished Senator. What was the last word? What is the way forward between the governors and whatever resolutions they've reached now? How implementation, it's always key in 30 seconds. Implementation is key in Nigeria.
Implementation is very key. We are looking forward to the National Assembly now, continuing with the process, concluding the process, and then we'll now be talking about implementation. So I expect that Nigerians will also come to contribute during the public debates. And then at the end of the day, we will not have that rancor that we're having. We'll have a smooth passage of this bill, and then we'll go back, because we'll not stop at passage of the bill. I think the committee, like a contributor said, must also create an opportunity to do more enlightenment during implementation. Let them not stop at the passage of the bill, because there will also be different groups coming, we're into
even
politics.
after passage, true.
Yes.
So at the public hearing, everybody can come in and...
of course, yes. I don't know the board. I'm not the chairman. But at the end of the day, opportunity will be given to a lot of people.
Every Nigerian.
Sectors come and make their
Thank
presentation.
Thank you very much, Senator Simon Bakola Long. Many thanks for being our guest, Senator representing Plateau South Senatorial District, former Governor of Plateau State and former Chairman of the Northern Governors Forum. It was a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to having you some other time. Of course, this conversation is continuous. And yes, Professor Uche Waleke looks like he'll be our most regular guest this year, because, I mean, many thanks, Professor of Capital Market at the Nasarawa State University, KEFI, and a former Commissioner for Finance in Imo State, Professor Uche Waleke. Many thanks for your insights on the program. We also want to appreciate Shegun Ajayi Kadri, the DG Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, who joined us via Zoom. Wish you the very best, and of course, your colleagues in your association. Earlier, we had Kende Kajo Mosho, who joined us from the FIRS, but had to leave due to a pressing important engagement. All right, so that's Good Morning Nigeria today, the very first for the week. Many thanks for watching. I'm Henry John. Live it locked on the NTA.
Indeed.